Yo, what's poppin', motherfuckers? It's Necro here, and I'm gonna give y'all some one of my hip hop history videos. A lot of y'all motherfuckers asked me to talk about the first time I linked with Cage, and don't mind the voice. I'm a little sick. I'm healing, but so yeah. So basically, let's talk about Cage, the first time I linked with him. So it goes back to the Stretch and Bobbito days. So for y'all that don't know, the Stretch and Bobbito show was basically the underground. It was the show in New York City, legendary. First time Wu-Tang went up to the radio, they did the whole album on the Who Got the Props beat. Jay-Z, he rapped on the Milk Bone beat with Big L. I did 1990 Gore. I won the demo battle contest in like 1990 or 91. So that was the show. Everybody listened to it. And so, you know, we would tape it like 5 a.m. in the morning. We would listen to the show. And they would play bangers, all the shit, you know what I mean? Like, from everybody. You would hear everything first coming from that radio show. There was no Hot 97. You know, you had like Red Alert type radio stations, but you know, they weren't playing, I don't think, the underground shit, you know? They were playing more stuff that was like Def Jam and Cold Chillin'. So basically, I would listen and tape everything, you know, so that I could walk around with a boombox in the neighborhood and listen to shit. So I don't remember the first time I heard him. It was on the show. And I thought it was a black kid. I didn't know he was a white boy. And he was saying, like, mentioning shit that I would mention, like Manson, and talking about cutting people, and just a lot of different things that, you know, the Necro style was developing into, where I would say certain things, mention serial killers. So he intrigued me, you know, and I was definitely trying to come up as a producer in the game, you know, to be somebody that people would fuck with beyond just rapping, you know. That's why I did production for nonfiction. So basically, I hear him, you know, he's just doing freestyles. And I think he had that one song with Pete Nice. Bring Him Back, Pete, Bring Him Back Rich, some shit. It was on, I guess, the solo Pete Nice album. And it dropped on, I think, Hoppo Records, which was the name. It wasn't Bobbito's Fondulum. It was Pete Nice's label called Hoppo. And Cage was featured on one song. And he said some shit like, I'll give you a hysterectomy for disrespecting me. And he was just talking a lot of crazy shit. So, yeah, I was a fan of his work. And it kind of seemed like nothing was happening with him at the time. So I don't know exactly what made me call Bobbito up, but I called Bobbito up one day and was like, what's up with this dude Cage? Who produces him? And Bobbito was like, I don't fuck with that dude no more. And I was like, why? He's like, he's too difficult to deal with. I tried. So I'm assuming, I think Bobbito was the A&R for Pete Nice's label. And Cage was too drugged out and too difficult going to Bellevue or whatever. And they couldn't deal with him because a release never happened. So as much as Bob supported Cage, I don't think he was able to deal with him to release him. And I guess nobody else. So he's like, yo, Necro, I'll give you his number. I'm like, yo, that black kid is ill. For some reason, I just pictured like a small black kid with a bald head or something, you know? And he's like, yo, dude's white. And I'm like, nah, for real? He's like, yeah, he's a white boy from Middletown, upstate New York. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. And I was kind of, you know, proud, I guess, you know, that there's another white kid ill like that, because I didn't expect a white kid to be so... Cage's earlier shit was way more murderous than after, when he stopped working with me. You know, he got a little more obscure, I think. He was definitely more the style I preferred on the earlier shit. So, yeah, I was bugging out when he said it's a white kid. I was like, damn, okay. I was like, give me his number. He was like, yo, if you can get him to do something, I'll put it out on Fondle him. But you got to deal with everything dealing with him personally and, you know, get the beats to him and then I'll put it out. So I end up calling up Cage and I don't remember the convo, but I probably pitched myself to him like, yo, I got beats. Can we meet up? And so I met up with Cage in Manhattan somewhere in some loft that he was staying at or visiting or something. And I remember one of the first beats I played for him was Just Like Clockwork. For those that know, you know that beat. It was a loop drum, boom, boom, da, boom, boom, da, that I got from a drumming library record that I got from the Liquidated Warehouse, the Warehouse Liquidators at like 23 in Manhattan. There was a place that would sell all these records and you can go to the basement and it was like for $1 each record. And a lot of them would be water fucked up with water damage. And one of them was a drumming record, like just a dude playing drums. And so I took that break from that and it was real dirty. It had a lot of and I remember playing over it. I don't remember the details, but I did a lot of playing. Like I would sample evil sounds and then I would play the melody over it. Because I was influenced by Dr. Dre Deep Cover, where Dr. Dre was playing a bass line and then had those highs, all those synthesizers. So I was doing like my own death metal version, you know, influenced by Dre. So that's what that song, Just Like Clockwork, was. And I remember when Cage finally dropped something on it, it was fucking dope. He was talking such obscure shit. Like, he said, straight to your noggin, crotch blotch from flogging. I'm like, he's talking about flogging, whipping bitches. And for the time, it was foul. You know, it was like just mixing those words. You know, I appreciated that because I was someone that would look for new words and shit and, you know, and try to say obscure shit. So I don't think Just Like Clockwork got played on Bobbito ever. I don't really know what happened with it. But, you know, then the next thing I know, we're working on Agent Orange and Radiohead. So Radiohead was a sample, I think, from 10 years after. I forgot the name of the group. But that was just something I had wrote on a record bass line. And when Cage came over my crib in Canarsie at the time, I had just whipped it out the sample and played it for him. And he liked that one. He was like, yo, that's hot. So I had just hooked it up. I think I pretty much made it right there on the spot. Like, I had those drums already, and the drums from Radiohead, they're not a record you can find, like one beat that's playing boom, da, boom, da. I took the kick, the snare, and the cymbal from different records. So, Radiohead is a combined beat from like 3 different records to make those drums. So a lot of times I would reuse drums over if I had a new idea and I didn't like the way I did something with it before. RZA did a lot of that on 36 Chambers. RZA would use like substitution like 10 times. I remember not liking 36 Chambers because he used the same drum beat like 4 times on the album. Now I appreciate it and I understand what he was doing. At the time, I would argue with Gore-Tex. Me and Gore-Tex would argue with the way RZA or Primo would use certain drum tracks, or like, not Primo, but I remember like one time I got into an argument with Gore-Tex over the Come Clean drums. He wanted to use them. He said we should use them, and I was like, nah, Primo used them. I don't want to use the same beat the drums Primo used. And Gore-Tex was like, oh, it doesn't matter. And I remember getting into an ideology argument with him over that. And I was against ever using shit that other people used. It had to be original and my own shit that I discovered. So the Radiohead sample is that group 10 years after, I think. Drums that I found myself from different records. And wah, 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 wah. I got that from a Kung Fu flick. That was actually something I had on a cassette tape that I had, because what I would do is Kung Fu flicks, I would take the cassette tape and then have all the samples from VHS. So, wah, 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 wah. I put on a cassette and found it. I don't think I asked Cage if he wanted me to use that. I just did it right while he was chilling, probably smoking weed or whatever with one of his friends. Yeah, so I added those samples. That beat is pretty simple. It's that bass line, which is a rock bass line, and then the Kung Fu sample of the wah wah, and then it has like a high string that's also from the same Kung Fu flick, and the drums. And then he had told me he wants to hook up the music from Clockwork Orange. He's like, yo, I always want to do Clockwork Orange and music. And I was like, yo, that's dope. I love Clockwork Orange.